Hello and welcome to Up the Villa podcast. So we've got a little bit of a bonus episode today. Transfer window starts in January, so we might be doing some movement, we might not. But I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Seb. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. The January window seems to have come across very quickly, but we're here and let the rumours begin.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's nice now to start thinking, although we've only played 9 games, let's be honest, we've had 9 games. So it's far less than what normally would happen. But there are telltale signs within our squad which definitely need looking at, and we need to improve for us to go to that next level. So we have played really well and we can see the build that we have done from last season. But for us to get to the levels that we want to aspire to be at, we do need to make some additions, especially in my opinion, this season as well, although it is quite early. One area for me that I think it needs addressing the most, and it's not a particular position, but it's the bench. I feel we have a lack of a bench, which, I think it's okay that our first 11 picks itself. That's brilliant. That's fine. I've no issue with that. But the area of slightly rotating the squad at times, substitutions, is an area where I feel like we can definitely improve on. So for me, I've got one shout, which I'd love us to sign this player. I feel like it is possible as well. We'd have to have agent Jack Grealish on hands as well to get this one over the line, I think, as well. So the first one for me would be Dele Alli. So I think we could possibly get him on a loan deal. I think a loan deal would be the first option that I'd have if I wanted us to sign Dele Alli, with maybe an option to buy towards the end of it. We did go for Dele Alli. I think it was in 2015 when Spurs got him, but obviously we were heading in a different direction to Spurs at the time, so he chose those. He scored 50 goals for Spurs, which is really good in 158 appearances. And I just think he'd give us a different dimension if maybe Barkley's out or McGinn's out at times. We could maybe rotate, and obviously off the bench, it would be great to have a player of that quality sitting on the bench maybe to come on. I feel like as well with the Euros coming up, surely he's got his eye on eventually trying to make that squad, because let's be honest, he's not going to make that squad if he stays at Spurs all season. So for his aspiration, I feel like it would be a good move to maybe come to Villa. Seb, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting link. I worry about probably his lack of game time in recent weeks and months. The thing that stands out for me is the fact that Jose Mourinho just doesn't like him. I think for such a top level manager who really knows what he's doing and knows what he's looking for, I think to completely freeze him out of that Tottenham team, there must be something wrong with him. However, different players work for different managers. So if he could come to Villa and end up rekindling his career and getting back on track, and if we could start to see some of that Dele Alli that Premier League fans saw when he first made his step up from League One, then I think it will be a very decent bit of business. It's always difficult when a player hasn't played for a long time, whether he'll come in and hit the ground running straight away. I mean, we all know Dele Alli's qualities. He's done it on the international stage as well as in the Premier League. He's done it in the Champions League as well. He's got to a Champions League final. So he brings that experience and that know-how. And if we could help him get back on track with a loan deal, if things go right, then maybe a permanent deal in the summer or whenever that suits us best. But it's certainly one to keep an eye on for sure.
Definitely, I feel like that's the one signing that I would love us to make. And I think it would drastically improve the look on that squad as well. So another one which is doing the paper rounds quite a lot, he's pretty much linked with a lot of teams as well, is Jesse Lingard. I feel like that's going to be split straight down the middle. It's going to be with some fans, yes, and other fans, it's going to be definitely not. For me, I'm going to say I'm sitting on the yes side of it just because I feel like as a bench player and a squad player for the rest of the season, to me, that's a bit of a no-brainer for me. If you can take out the wages and think maybe we're not paying all of his wages, then I think, again, why not? I feel like, if we got, say, 7 or 8, 9 good games out of him, then it would make us look a lot better. What are your thoughts, Seb?
Again, I think this is similar to the Delhi situation. I mean, someone who hasn't played in coming weeks, months, you could probably just use what I've said for Deli Ali,
Yeah.
really. If he could come here and rekindle his career, then, I'd be all for that. I think I'd worry about where he'd fit in.
Mm.
Does he play out on the right hand side, or does he come into the centre of the park? And if he does come into the centre of the park, whose place would he take? Would it be McGinn's? Would it be Dougie's? It's really difficult, because if he came into the centre, we'd have a midfield three of either Douglas Luiz, Lingard, and Barkley. Would Barkley and Lingard work well together? Time would tell. But I think many, many clubs are going to be rumoured to be interested in him, because it looks as though in the coming days his agent has tried to drum up interest
Yeah.
from wherever, as you would do with a footballer who's looking to get his career back on track. I probably wouldn't read too much into the Jesse Lingard rumours, but who knows?
I think it's just some of these level of players is a credit to where we sort of maybe are at the minute, that we're going above a bracket of, a Daniel Sturridge. I mean, that name was branded round for a few years, and we've gone past that now. And I think, especially like Adeli Ali, should we say, you know, he wouldn't look at us now and think it's a step down. I mean, yeah, it slightly is from where he is at Spurs, they're top of the league. But where we're sort of heading, we've got a lot of good prospects. Like, it's sort of like you've got a little carrot dangling over them. Do you know what I mean? Do they want to get in the England squad or not? Do you know what I mean? But we've seen that Grealish can. We've seen that Mings can. Barkley, if he comes back from the injury and hits that form of, say, the Leicester and the Liverpool game, why can't he be in that squad? So I think if those players are sort of looking at what's going on, it's a good prospect for them to come to Villa, I think. So another one is actually our player, is Wesley. So it looks like Wesley's going to be back around January time, which is a massive welcome boost to our squad. What are your thoughts on Wesley coming back then, Seb? How do you see him, evolving into this team?
Um, Wesley. He seemed to almost be a bit of a scapegoat in our first season. He didn't have much support around him, and at a time where we were struggling as a club as a whole, I think it was really difficult for him to come into a new league from abroad and hit the ground running. But I'm actually a massive, massive fan of Wesley. I think it's so good for a team like us, who are not up near the top, but also not fighting down the bottom, to have a striker, a typical number 9 who's willing to hold the ball up, get his body around. And I really like that about Wesley. I seem to see something in him that I don't think many other fans did. Look, he's been out for so long. Whether he can get anywhere near where he's capable of, time will only tell. He was on track for double digits in his first season,
Yeah.
and that was a really good sign. My worry is he's going to be back in January. I don't think he's going to be match ready in January. I can't see him playing any minutes for the first team until probably March time, because for such a big injury to come back to, they're going to want to make sure that he's well rested, that he's properly match fit and prepared, because we don't want a situation where it turns into a regular occurrence and he becomes an injury-prone striker. At such a young age, he's still got such a high potential for him that I think the club need to handle this really carefully. Look, I'm more excited than anyone to see him back. And whether we could get him working with Watkins, that could be a potentially really exciting duo. Is he going to be ready in time to reach his full potential by the end of this season? Probably not. So I think that's probably one that we'll have to monitor closely in the summer. But I'm excited to see him back on the training pitch. And I'm excited to see that he's willing to put in the work to get into that first team again.
Definitely. I'm with you on that one. So, Seb, have you got any names lined up that you're thinking we could maybe possibly reach out and get?
Yeah, I have. I've been having a look. Like you said earlier, what we need to focus on most is our bench. When you look at our bench compared to the rest of the Premier League teams around us, you look at it and you see weaknesses. I think Smith mentioned last year that he turns around, he looks at his bench and all he sees is quality. And I think some of us fans almost looked at that and went, are you seeing what we're seeing? Because, I don't think we have that necessary oomph
Yeah.
almost that we can bring off the bench if we're struggling or if we're looking to hold a game out and be reassured when we see those players warming up. However, I like the look of James McCarthy. We were linked with him briefly in the summer, and I've been watching his situation closely at Palace. He started off really well for the season, but Milivojevic came back into contention for Roy Hodgson's side, and since then he hasn't really got a look in with James McArthur also getting in ahead of him. So I think if we could get him in, I think his Premier League experience would be really helpful for us coming off the bench. Maybe if we're 1-0 up looking to hold a game out, if we bring him on, I think he'll sit in front of the back four and almost act as like a block, a guard, which is really good. Another thing is, I think we'll be able to get him on the cheap. I don't think Palace will be looking at a substantial fee for James. So if we could get him in, I think that could be a really smart signing for us.
I think that's a great shout. I was one of those that were, wanting him to come in the summer as well for everything that you've just said. I think he gives us that little bit of protection when it's needed as well. So that's a great shout. You got any more?
Yeah, I think one place we need to look at is the defence. Obviously, we started off so well defending early on in the season. However, it's just Matt Targett's side. I'm not reassured when I see him play. I think he's often caught out of position, and I think he's often found out with teams looking to counterattack down his side. So maybe if we look towards our feeder club down in the Championship, Brentford, and poach Rico Henry off them. Obviously, Brentford are known for their tough negotiation stages. So whether we have the patience to be able to deal with that in January or whether we'll look at summer for that, I think he could be a really smart option. Firstly, coming in as an understudy for Target and then maybe to look to push to make that role his own come next season. Another two defenders, these are central defenders. The first one is Mohamed Simikan from Europe. He's a young central defender, 20 years old, if I'm correct. I don't think he'd come in to take the places straight away, but it seems as though Smith doesn't have the greatest faith in Courtney House and Bjorn Engels. So if we could bring in a young defender who would almost be understudy to Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa, if we could bring someone in who wouldn't necessarily start straight away and we could almost ease the pressure a little bit, I think that would be really wise, almost building for the future. Another one, I'm probably looking through claret and blue glasses here, but Axel Twanzebe, his name gets bandied around almost every transfer window since he's left. And I think if we could get him in, he'd be a real quality signing. He's not getting a look in under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. For some reason, he just doesn't like him. I mean, I watched him play Man United in the Champions League against PSG, and he absolutely ran the show. he made Maguire look like the one who had spent time on loan in the Championship. Twanzebe almost stepped up and made that role his own. He pocketed Neymar, he pocketed Mbappe, and I love him. I do. I have a real soft, affectionate side for Axel, so I'd love to see him down Villa Park once again. But that's probably the least likely out of the two.
I think you got some great shouts, to be fair, Seb. Twanzebe again, until he comes back to Villa, I'm sure that's the one name that we'll all be keep saying every single transfer window. So, I'd love to see him as well. So, with this episode, I thought we'd just touch on January, just see where we sort of think we possibly could improve on, and some of the signings that, maybe we can reach out and get in January. So if you do want to subscribe to the channel, it'd be really appreciated. Drop the video a like and let us know whether you're a fan of Jesse Lingard signing or not. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.